they'd let us, you know. And then when Mr. Leo died, then the younger generation came in. It was not the same.
What year did he pass away?
You know, I don't remember.
And it was in the middle of your time or towards the end of your time working?
Towards the end of my time, I guess. No, I don't. I really don't remember when he died. And but we went through when Mrs. Mervyn died, and when her sister, Miss Pauline Schwartz, we called her Miss Popo, when she died, and then, you know, Mr. Julian died, and all through and then when Mr. Leo died, well, his sister's son-in-law came to run the store, Mr. Edel Jankow, and it had a different atmosphere. And we still had the promotional sales, but they were not near what they were when Mr. Leo had them.
You gotta have a flair for business that they didn't have? Or just better at promotional events?
Not really.
Did they hire a lot of temporary people?
Not too many.
Okay.
Not too many. Sometimes, yeah, in the summertime, college students would come from Lafayette, and they would hire them for the summer. Yeah, we had a few of those.
What do you think they looked for in employees? Do you have any sense of that?
Well, they wanted you to put in your money's worth.
Okay, sorry. Trying to flip over the tape. But they didn't have any certain specifications? No, like...
Oh, we had a dress code, darling. We had to wear hosiery. We had not too much open toe type thing, and everybody dressed well. The men had to have ties, and he'd let you know if you didn't think you had something appropriate on. And we had a dress code. And everybody had coffee break. You had to punch out on your coffee break and punch back in. And you were allowed to go out of the store and get your coffee, you know, or whatever. And but you were expected to be on time, on the job, and do what was expected of you.
Mm-hmm. Did you work in shifts? Was it kind of a day shift and then night shift, or?
For a while they start opening later in the morning and stay later at night after Mr. Leo died. And some of the girls that would work at the racetrack part-time, they would go ahead and leave, and then their co-worker would stay and until they closed the store and do both jobs, theirs and the co-worker's job, with permission from the executive. Yeah.
Where was the racetrack?
In Karen Crow, Lafayette, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't people drive or did they take the train?
No, they drove.
Okay.
And we drove to work. We had a car. We drove to work, and sometimes I'd walk to lunch, just leave the car at the store, and because I didn't live that far from the store, I just walk to lunch and walk back.
What was your training like? Do you remember the first day of work?
My training, I was there. This girl had an emergency surgery, and I was going to be in the wrapping counter.
Okay.
In the men's department store. So we had to bag their suits, you know, and wrap their merchandise that could be wrapped with, you know, and or box it, or whatever, and check their sales ticket to see that everything was in there that was on that sale ticket, and be sure whoever, and we held it, and be sure whoever came to collect it had their receipt, so they, you know,
the right person got the right
yeah,
suit.
right, no mix-up.
So you started in the men's department, and then
in the wrapping counter, and then about 2 weeks later, he asked me to train to be the PBX girls helper when she'd go to lunch, and when, you know, and then I wind up being up there. The PBX and the cashier was next to one another, so whoever was not busy hopped to get the phone, or whoever. If the phone wasn't busy, you helped make change and whatever. And Mr. Leo would be right, we could almost touch him, he'd be right there.
So he didn't have a separate office, but he was pretty close.
And he never used his phone, he'd just say, oh, Annalou, or Edith, you know, or Angele, he'd, you know, call out whoever he wanted.
What does PBX stand for?
Your telephone service, you know. And they did their buying out of New York, so we had a lot of long distance and whatever. And like I said, we had 3 lines, so we was really uptown.
Yeah. What was the minimum wage, do you remember?
We had no minimum wage.
Okay.
When you came in, they either told you got $100 a month or $65 or whatever. And one of the girls still has her first statement. She was making $100 a month. One of my co-workers, and she said, "Do you still have yours?" I said, "No, I don't have mine." But by the time I left, I was making almost $200. It's hard to believe, huh?
Yeah.
That's no money. 160, 100, you know.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing else, no other enterprise, yeah.
Right.
And so.
Was it one of the, you think it was one of the biggest companies that hired in town?
That was, yeah, you can say the only.
Okay. But there wasn't any kind of retirement or no insurance?
Yeah, we had supposed to have a little retirement. We put in it, and yes, we had insurance.
Okay.
And but when I retired, when I left in '71, I didn't get anything.
Okay.
And I kept my own insurance. I continued paying it myself.
Right.
And when they closed the store, and I came and saw Mervyn Jankow, and I said, "What happened to our little?" You know. Anyhow, I didn't
Somehow
get
we
anything.
got lost.
Yeah, right. Anyhow, I didn't get anything. Some of them got a few $1,000s.
Okay.
I didn't get anything. And,
I had a question earlier. Let me see if I can go back for it real quick. Oh, was there anything at Mervyn Con that you can only get there at that store? Either when you were growing up or when you were working there?
yes, because that's the only place that had clothes.
Okay.
And shoes and I mean the main store. Kennedy's had a little bit of that, but nothing compared to the stock we had, you see. And so and that little dress shop that opened years and years later,
Okay.
and they had cute things there.
Did Mervyn Con have any kind of deli or anything on site, or just the local restaurants that you ate at? There wasn't any eating place at the store?
No, they had a drugstore across the street. You could go get an ice cream, but they had a little restaurant down the street. But most of us either brown bagged or we went home for lunch.
So
No fast food, no nothing, honey.
So you would say it was mostly a place to shop, not necessarily socialize, or did people sometimes go to meet their friends there?
Well, we had our clientele was from South America all the way to Houston. We had them all over, and that was the busy time, you know. And the athletic department at USL, what is it? ULL. They would come and buy a lot of their, they'd make them order, I don't know, I guess they wanted certain color blazers or whatever. and they would order all of that for them, and we had a big clientele, we really did, and we had all the farmers' accounts, and
Did your family growing up, did you ever go outside of town for something that Reverend Cons didn't have? Did Lake Lafayette have anything that Reverend Cons didn't?
well, I can't really say that Mervyn Con didn't. We probably went out of curiosity.
Yeah.
But I would think that Mervyn Con had it.
Okay.
And we just, and when we had Jewish holidays off, they would close the store. We just go to Lafayette and comb everything and just check all of that out. Not necessarily buy anything, but we went.
To see what was there.
Absolutely. Compare.
Yeah.
And
When they were looking for new employees, were there anyone who they wouldn't hire? Or were they just kind of open to whoever?
it was more or less open to whoever. He would judge their character, and he would interview them himself. And either he or Mr. Milo Doubleval, the man that our bookkeeper, our comptroller, I guess you could call him, and he, if Mr. Leo didn't interview him, he did, and they knew everybody. So, and who they didn't know, they knew somebody who knew,
Right. Sure.
and so.
What was the other man's name?
Milo Doubleval. Emil, but we called him Mr. Milo. M-I-L-O. Milo Doubleval. And in fact, this is their home here.
Okay.
The Doubleval home.
Can you spell that for me?
D-A-B-O-V-A-L.
D-A-V.
B-O-V-A-L. Doubleval. And he stayed there many, many years. His wife used to make us the cutest little, she was very artistic and loved to do crafts. And all the girls in the office, he would always bring us a little Christmas gift.
And he was kind of the manager, or?
Well, he was the bookkeeper. He was in charge of the office, and we worked under him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Mr. Milo. But that didn't mean that we didn't do other things. Like if Mr. Leo needed somebody, he'd take me and we'd go downstairs. And he would sit at the counter, and people would want patterns, and I'd get them out of the pattern cabinet, whatever, and hand them to them who already had their material folded and whatever. And then he'd make them their ticket. The domestic, the girl had already figured out everything, and then he'd make them their ticket, and then he'd take them and collect their money, bring it to the vacuum thing while I stayed in there and showed the handbags and the whatever. And if they had a promotional in the housewares, I'd go work with Mr. Foreman, Barney Foreman, and then they, the thing about pick a key and open the little treasure chest and all that good stuff. And they had gift certificates in there if you want anything.
Yes.
Well, then I would be down there helping him and write down who won and what, and the amount they won and whatever.
Right.
And whoever was not busy, or whoever were done with their work, could help the other guy. And so we all kind of helped one another.
So you weren't just stuck in one station, but you kind of drifted around where it was
Yeah,
needed?
well, we were pretty well stationed there at the cashier's desk and the switchboard.
Okay.
But if the girls ran into problems, we had to go up 4 more steps to get to the other girls.
Okay.
Mr. Milo would bring us their percentage invoice, so we would figure the percentage on there so that they could, whoever paid, they gave a good percentage, or they paid within so many days. Within, they gave them a little off of this, and so we would figure out the percentage point. Everybody helped one another. Everybody